Hello and welcome to another video by Siddharth Education. We continue within our number unit as part of the larger mathematics program. So today's video is going to be on rounding to decimal places. Rounding to decimal places. So as we know, in brief, whenever we have a digit and the digit after it is the digit 5 or larger, we round up. And if it is 4 or lower, we round down. Okay, so in brief, that is our law of rounding. 5 or larger, if the digit is 5 or larger, we round up, and if the digit is 4 or lower, we round down. Okay, now today this specific video is going to specialize in rounding to decimal places. Decimal places are every digit after the decimal point. So here we have a decimal point, here we have a decimal point, here we have a decimal point, and so on and so forth. So all these digits after the decimal point are all decimal places. Okay, now here we have one decimal place, the first decimal place, the second decimal place, the third decimal place, and the fourth decimal place. Here we have the first decimal place, the 4 is the second decimal place, the 7 is the third decimal place, the 5 is the fourth decimal place, and the 1 finally is the fifth decimal place. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we are going to learn how to round to decimal places. So let's take a look at this first example that we have here. So let me just neaten that up for you. Perfect. Right. So round to decimal places, 47.5642 to 3 decimal places. 47.5642 to 3 decimal places. Whenever rounding to a decimal place, okay, we always look at the decimal place after it. So for this question here, we've been told to round to 3 decimal places. Therefore, we are going to examine the 4th decimal place. Always one after the decimal place in question. So let's go ahead and label our decimal places. So here we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our investigation is going to be on this decimal place here. Now 2, is 2 5 or larger? Well, no, it isn't. Therefore, we are going to round down. Because we are going to round down, this 4 here will remain as 4 and will not round up to 5. So let's show this then. So rounding to 3 decimal places is 47.564. Remember, because we are rounding down. Why are we rounding down? Because 2 is smaller than 5. Therefore, the third decimal place, which is the 4, remains at 4 and rounds down to 4 and does not round up to 5. Have I rounded to 3 decimal places? Yes, I have. How do I know? Because after my decimal point, I have 1, 2, 3 decimal places. So I can double underline my answer and commit to that there. Okay, now let me just separate both questions so they're clear. Perfect. Next question. 8.94751 rounded to 1 decimal place. Again, reminder, when rounding to a specific decimal place, in this case decimal place 1, okay, the first decimal place, what we do is we inspect the decimal place after that. So we are going to inspect the second decimal place. So what we do is, first of all, we identify our decimal point. There we go. And then we count. So we have our first decimal place there, our second there, our third there, our fourth there, and our fifth there. Let me just write those out a bit clearer. Okay, 2 and 3. There we go. So which decimal place are we going to inspect? Well, we're going to inspect the second, which is the 4 here. Is 4 larger, 5 or larger, or smaller than 5? Well, it is in fact smaller. Therefore, the 9, we are going to round down to just 9. It will not round up. Therefore, when rounding 8.94751 to 1 decimal place, our answer is 8.9. And we can double underline our answer there. How do we know we've rounded to 1 decimal place? Well, after our decimal point here, we only have 1 digit. Okay, moving on. Round 57.9712 to 2 decimal places. How many decimal places are we rounding to? we're rounding to 2. Therefore, we inspect the third digit after the decimal point. So let's identify that. Well, here's my decimal point, okay? And then we have 1, 2, and 3. So it's 1 that we are investigating, okay? Is 1 5 or larger? No, it isn't. Therefore, 7, okay, which is this digit here, will round down to 7. So if we take our black pen here, we round this down, we get 57.97, sorry, 57.97, yeah. Okay, and we can double underline our answer. How do we know we've rounded to 2 decimal places? Well, after our decimal point, we have 2 digits, okay? We have 2 decimal places. Let's move on to the next example now. Round 83.4632 to 3 decimal places. 83.4632 to 3 decimal places. How many decimal places are we rounding to? Well, we're rounding to 3. Therefore, we are going to investigate our 4th decimal place. So let's go ahead and label our decimal places. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, and we have 4. So it is this 2 here that we are going to be checking. So is 2 5 or larger? No, it isn't. Therefore, the 3 here will be rounding down. Therefore, when rounding 83.4632, it is rounded down. Let's take the black pen to remain consistent. 83.463. And we can double underline our answer and commit to that. How do I know that I have rounded to 3 decimal places? Well, after my decimal point, I have 3 digits, 1, 2, and 3. Let me just cordon off this new question so we can distinguish between the different questions. There we go. Round 0.43569 to 1 decimal place. How many decimal places are we rounding to? Well, we're rounding to 1 decimal place. In that case, we are going to inspect the second decimal place, because we always inspect the decimal place after it. So let's label our decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, let's make that a bit neater. 4 and 5. Now, let's determine what our second decimal place is. Well, it is in fact the 3. If I just, there we go, perfect. Is 3 5 or larger? Well, it's not, so we are going to round down. Therefore, when rounding 0.43569 to 1 decimal place, we round to 0.4, because the 4 will be rounded down. And we can double underline our answer. How do we know we have rounded to 1 decimal place? Well, after our decimal point here, we only have 1 digit, okay, 1 decimal place. Let's move forward now. Okay, so that should be enough practice. All of these, okay, coincidentally, we rounded down, but there will be situations where you're required to round up, okay? So the best advice I would give you is to practice more questions, look at exam questions. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.